And there it is. So welcome, welcome, welcome. We are working on some technical difficulties, which good thing we specialize a little bit in that, right? So Benji's just working on trying to figure out his sound. It looks like maybe his cool headphones or the picky website that I'm using have curtailed our audio here. So it'll just be a couple of moments while we get that settled. But thank you all for tuning in today. We're pretty excited for this one. It is my birthday, so very good. I know, that was a surprise, right, Benji?
Happy birthday, Maria.
Thank you, thank you. I don't read lips, but I got that one, so that'll work.
Okay, still not getting through. Okay.
No. That's okay, that's okay. It fits with the day. So I was telling Benji earlier, when I was coming home from school drop-off, I thought they were doing yard work, but they were really cutting up concrete. And you know, after that, I was looking for the water source. Told they had one, but it was just a bucket of water they were using sparingly. So I wish them well. But they found some pipes that they didn't know were there, and so our water's been shut off. So that was an interesting start to the day. And so it fits perfectly with just a little bit of tech trouble. Benji, what about leaving and coming back in? You want to try that? I'm clicking some buttons on my side too to see if
it is saying that my audio is working.
There's something I can do. Looks like no. But if you go into settings, sorry guys, welcome to Troubleshooting 101. Benji, on your screen, we've got a gear. In the right-hand side, it says Manage Layouts. If you click on there, you can go to Audio, and then maybe your default mic. Yeah, looks like a good spot.
It is saying it's good.
No. And it still doesn't like you. That's okay. When in doubt, try a different pair of headphones. This is why we keep more than one around. Nope. Still no. I know. It's okay. It's okay. I'll finish my story about the concrete. So they turned the water off, and it was a great surprise to me and maybe a couple of others. I don't know. It's just a few units in our building. Luckily for me, right? So I marched myself over to the office after the workers told me that they're doing their best efforts, but it just really wouldn't be done. They're still working on it now. So that was okay. But I pranced myself down to the front office and I took a shower in the model unit of the complex. So that was pretty good. Still no.
Still no. It says...
And then because it was my birthday, I promise it's not a long story. I just am able to talk on point. So because of that and everything else, I thought it'd be a great idea to show up with brushed hair and just no makeup inside. I did cheat and I used some chapstick. So that was I went for my birthday look. Benji, how about now?
Is it me? Are you muted?
No.
Is the speakers muted on your side? Are people on the stream able to hear me?
No. I know. Let's see if I have the option to mute your mic, but I don't want to do that. Maybe I can automatically adjust.
Check the chat.
I don't know.
Let's see.
I'm going to try taking you down and putting you back up myself. There we go. Okay, now try to unmute your... Oh, wait, I can do it. Okay, now try. No, I was so excited for that one. I thought it would work. Okay. We'll do that. So he's going to leave on his side and then try to come back in. Thank you all for your patience. If you'd like, go ahead and drop us a comment. We do have some giveaways today, and it's going to be triggered by those who comment in the sections. So we'll go over the swag here a little bit once Benji gets his audio working. But go ahead and tell us where you're coming in from and what you're looking for today. Okay, how about now?
Any luck?
Now.
Are your speakers on mute?
Do you think? Oh,
Four speakers on.
oh, how funny is that? And everyone's been hearing you the whole time, and it was just me.
I thought that might be.
Well, see, so here's what the story will get a little bit longer then. If I had not been running my mouth, then maybe I could have checked for things on my side. And it literally was just the fact that my audio on my laptop was off. And that's why I couldn't hear Benji. So I hope you guys all enjoyed our modern day seance for 2025. It was a good time. And now that we have summoned all of our people here, we can we can go ahead. Benji, I'm so glad that that was my fault.
It's okay. It's okay. Nobody's perfect. Not even the fintech financial.
That's
aid,
right.
you know.
Right. And especially not on their birthday.
Not
right?
on their birthday. You're allowed one tech mistake on your birthday, and we got it out of the way.
Oh dear, it's pretty early in the day for me to have already used my one tech mistake for today.
We'll give you two. We'll give you two.
Okay, good. I'll try to let my boss know that one. Okay, perfect. So I was waiting for you because I didn't want to show off my swag until you had an opportunity to also present your swag. So let's show the people why they want to comment today. What have you got going on?
So I have got, not at my hand ready, but in the closet behind me, I've got 3 Billd branded Yeti mugs. I will say I got one of these mugs separately as a wedding party present 7 years ago.
Okay.
And I've drank coffee out of it every single day since then.
So it's a good cup.
It's a great cup. And it will keep your hots hot and your colds cold as long as you need. And it fits most car cup holders. So those are the big advantages here. I've also got a couple of hats, and I know people love a nice trucker hat, so I've got those at the ready as well.
You're right. I may or may not have a wall of hats, and I wish I were a hat person, but I'm worried it might mess up my 39-year-old hair, you know? So, okay, perfect. I had a chair ready, but I moved it out of the way. So let's see if these show up on camera. So I have my favorite color, construction orange shirt. So it is branded for ConTech Financials, but the back is really my favorite because it's just so it's me. I hope it's someone else. Let's talk about the money, honey. Right? That's my favorite part. And then because it's so cold, and that one is long sleeve, but because it is so cold, we also have a nice little pullover that's the same way. Right? Let's talk about the money, honey. So if these are attractive things to you, we'd love to see some comments. And then we're going to do this exciting thing that StreamYard has that's like a live giveaway item. So it'll take everyone's comments and put them in to a big bucket, and then we can draw and have an exciting time a little bit later in the session. Very good. All right. Well, Benji, do you want to then just go ahead, since we kind of already had our fun time here to start with, do you want to go ahead and show us your awesome slideshow, right? So this is Benji. I didn't even introduce him. Here he is. He's decided to join me today, and we're so grateful. So our session today is going to be geared mostly towards trade partners, right? And how they can thrive in this environment that we have out here. I would think they use the phrase paid when paid. So Benji, who are you and what are you doing joining us here today?
Thank you for that question. I'm Benji Orlansky. I am here in Austin, Texas. I work for a company called Billd. That's BILLD. And we work primarily with subcontractors, but we also have partnerships with GCs and suppliers across the country. Our goal is to make sure that everybody involved in the construction food chain gets paid and gets their cash when they need it. And we supply strategic financing to make that happen. Our ultimate goal, as I'll get to throughout the presentation, is to protect subcontractors' cash so they can use that cash to invest in their business rather than funding projects. So using your cash as a growth lever and using our cash to help you keep projects on time and keep projects on schedule, so you can pay your suppliers, you can pay your labor, and grow your business in a really healthy way. So I will talk about that.
Okay. I like those things because those are all things that I care about, right? So if anybody's paid attention to me long enough, you know that I really appreciate lots of things that our skilled trades do, but number one and number two are going to be indoor plumbing, great invention, and HVAC because it's hot and I live in the South. So Texas does a really good job of their air conditioners if you've ever gotten to experience them over there. So
we just wore out an AC unit here in Texas because it's been so hot and had to get that replaced. Also shout out to electricity. Big ups to the electricity in terms of modern conveniences, and all the other trades in between.
That's right, because my smoker that I got for my birthday wouldn't work without the electricity. That's a good call, Benji.
Yeah. Maria, are you able to see my screen? Yeah, it looks like we are.
I am, and now everyone else can too, so we're glad.
Perfect. So let's get into it. Focus of this is empowering construction business with strategic capital, and I'll talk about where we plug in there. So who is Billd? As you see from this lovely map here, we work across all 50 states. We have worked with about 2,000 subcontractors directly with projects across all 50 states. Our main goal, as I mentioned, is so that you as a construction business owner can gain stability and predictability through streamlined AR, get better deals with your supplier, manage your supplier relationships by paying not just on time, but paying early, so you can leverage early payment discounts and unlock a higher line of credit with your suppliers by paying in cash and paying up front. Investing in parts of your business by protecting that cash, so that the cash that you've earned through hard work, through growth, through taking on more projects, can go back into your business or go back into your pockets as a business owner, so that you can really, if you're running an $8 million subcontracting business, it should feel like you're running an $8 million business, and a business that you can grow in a healthy way. On the right here, these are just some of the different partners that we work with. What is not on here is Turner Construction. Turner Construction actually has just started partnering with us for a nationwide partnership, bringing their early pay program to contractors across the country. Turner came to us as the team of people who can speak finance in a way to contractors across the country, and they partnered with us to bring their early pay program across the board. So I assume a lot of people on this call have either been on Turner projects or have bid on Turner projects, as they are, the big guys in the space. And we've been partnered with them for the last year or so, really launching in earnest in the past couple of months.
That's all. So, I'm excited for them there.
Yeah, it's a big deal. All right, so growing sustainably with the right capital strategy for your business. A couple of just facts to get out of the way up front. The reality of the business on, subcontractors have to serve as the bank on construction. All told, subcontractors might serve as the largest bank in the country because they've got to pay up front for labor and materials. And then often, and they're putting their money out on the street on these projects before getting paid back, and have to pay money on the AP side. So just some quick facts. 44% of subcontractors across the country have a line of credit that covers less than 10% of their annual revenue. And 17% of subs don't even have a line of credit. Lines of credit can be very difficult to attain. Banks view and underwrite construction industry in a very different way than maybe we do here at Billd. And it can be very difficult to get a reliable line of credit from a banking partner. And even still, with that line of credit from your banking partner, that's funds that you should be investing back in your business rather than in projects. Our nationwide average shows that it takes about 56 days to get paid after your pay application has been approved. And that's not because GCs are sitting there waiting on to pay subcontractors, of course, but it takes a long time to get that back to the owner, to get those funds dispersed. And all the while, this 56 days is really a lot closer to maybe 80 days because throughout the month prior to that pay application being submitted, you've paid your labor every week, you've paid for overhead on the project. You've paid out of pocket for materials on that project. And to kind of weather the cost and weather that gap of that 56 to 80 days, that's coming out of cash to pay for those things. And that's cash that could be used to mobilize other projects, to take on additional work, or of course to invest in your business. 40% of subs keep anywhere from half to all their profits as working capital. And that to me is kind of the biggest red flag, and the thing that we really like to focus on the most is if you're constantly taking profits from one job and pouring it into the next job, that really, really hinders your ability to grow as a business.
Mm-hmm.
Just some more facts here. 92% of subcontractors rely on supplier terms, and that, maybe you get 30 days, maybe you get 60 days from your supplier. What's most kind of jarring about that is that 85% of those supplier terms don't align with your subs, with the subcontractor's DSOs, meaning if I'm not going to get paid for 56 days, but I owe my supplier over here in 30 days, those terms aren't going to cover it. And as we'll talk about a little bit later, those terms often have additional pricing baked in. And so you're not getting the best price when you rely on terms. So this does create a little bit of a domino effect, right? So I don't know why all these dominoes have the same 5-to-1 pips, but ignore that and just think about it as a topple effect. So starts with limited capital, right? So if it's tough to grow a business, it's tough to grow cash reserves. I talk to a lot of subs who start the month at $150,000 in the bank, and then by the end of the month, a lot of that is gone because you've had to pay these projects and keep them on schedule. So a lot of times you might have to use personal savings or business savings to invest. It's a deprioritization of investments that you need to make, like investments in equipment or operation improvements, investing in personnel. When you are limited by your capital, you miss on opportunities. So I don't want to pull the room, but I know I speak to a lot of subcontractors who maybe don't take on additional work because taking on a large project, the cash strain at the beginning of mobilization of that project, we just don't have the cash reserves to actually take that on. So you're missing out on opportunities for growth and lost discounts from suppliers by paying on or past terms. When your supplier gives you 30-day terms, they're baking out the fact that they that they're putting their money on the street for an additional 30 days. That gets then put into your line item pricing as well, and you're missing out on early discounts from those suppliers.
Yeah. Let's pause there for a little bit, Benji, because that's one of my favorite places. When I first came into construction, I went in with a roofing supplier, and what I can tell you is that those items are a different price for everyone who walks in the door.
Yep.
And it's even a different price for folks that have maybe a special project, right? So maybe you get one rate on an item during normal times, but then let's say that you call your suppliers. And if you're not doing this, it's a great idea to do, right? Call them up and say, hey, I've got a tight project, or it's a government project, or whatever that little reason is. And more than likely, they're going to work with you and give you some kind of percentage off of your pricing there. And that's really, really helpful when we're talking about these smaller margins on these projects where maybe we don't have such a big cushion, or we're in a position to not be cushioned in the first place, right?
Yep.
So this is a good one. And when we're talking about missed opportunities too, it's not just the fact that you don't have cash, right? In order to hire somebody to show up, you have to be able to pay them. And so this is why I love Billd and this idea. So that was my favorite part. Go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, so something we coach a lot of our subs to do is to use the ability that Billd gives you with additional capital to go to suppliers and say, hey, if I could pay you within 10 days of receipt of materials, and I've got this $200,000 project, it's going to be $100,000 worth of materials, I can guarantee you 90% of that that material cost and pay you on time before terms. You don't have to extend terms to me. What is the absolute best pricing you can give me? We typically see discounts anywhere from 2 to 9% with that kind of arrangement. So it's taking that kind of project-based strategy approach with your material suppliers that can often result in major savings that go into your profit margins on after your bid.
Yes.
Lost revenue. I know, one of the big priorities for a lot of subs is making sure that their team stays active and stays paid. if you're not able to take on more projects, then it becomes very difficult to keep your team busy. And so maybe sometimes you take on a project that's smaller than your business plan has modeled, or it has lower revenue than lower profit margin than you would anticipate, just to keep your guys busy and keep them paid. And then you're keeping your team employed, but you're not actually growing your business that way. Mm-hmm. And lastly, kind of the most important piece is you're stunting your growth when you constantly need to recycle your cash into projects. So it makes it tough to go hire, make those additional hires that you really need to make to meet your goals. It makes it difficult to take on additional projects because your GCs may think, hey, they don't have the financing to cover this project. I want to go with somebody more secure, and it prevents you from making investments in your business that you might need to make, like equipment or trucks or a new office or anything like that. I was talking to a subcontractor the other day who said, we could do a lot more prefabrication if we were just in a different part of town that had more space, but we can't take on that additional office space right now because we keep recycling our cash. So it becomes this domino effect when you're putting cash back into projects.
Yeah, it really does. And a dangerous one.
Yes. So we always recommend, and not just with Billd, but overall, taking a proactive and diversified approach with your working capital stack. And when I say working capital stack, everybody in this business has multiple opportunities and multiple different tools that they can rely on for financing. We like to place these on a scale of least flexible to most flexible, which may not be a framework that immediately clicks, but if you think about it, your least flexible might be equipment financing. This is financing that we've taken on for a specific piece of equipment. Then construction specific financing, that would be something like Billd, where we're financing on projects specifically tied to specific invoices, to specific pay apps. It is financing that is custom built and purpose built for that construction project. You then have credit cards, which you can spend that on anything that you want, but there's a much lower credit limit than you probably need. And you've got to pay that off the next month. Mm-hmm. Supplier terms are here. Those are certainly flexible, but they are tied specifically to that supplier and those material purchases, but they're very low cost, even if that is being added into your line item cost that you leveraging those supplier terms. And then these last two, these are the ones that, your most flexible options are going to be a bank line of credit and cash. But what we often see when we talk to subcontractors is, hey, these are my most flexible options, so I'm going to tap into those things first. There's a perception that they are free, or at least that your cash is free. But the truth is, when you do tap into your cash, there is a cost to that. That's mm-hmm. cash that, on a small level could be earning interest in a money market account. But kind of more importantly, there's a major opportunity cost when you dip into that cash, because that is, I'm sounding like a broken record, but that's cash that you could be using to hire more people, to take disbursements as a business owner, to purchase equipment, to relocate, any of these things that you would need to invest in to help you hit that plan. Anytime I talk to a subcontractor and ask, hey, what are your revenue goals next year? And they say, hey, we want to double. And I ask, what's it going to take to get there? 9 times out of 10, there's some kind of investment that they would need to make in order to hit that revenue goal. And you need your cash in order to be able to do that. More kind of on the other side of it, if we've tapped into all of our cash and we've tapped into our bank line of credit, and then a project goes sideways, we got a very late paying project, we have an unexpected cost that we have to incur. If these are tapped out, these options over here can't help you. And so it's very important to preserve your cash, preserve your bank lines of credit to keep your operation flowing.
Mm-hmm. And Melissa, I'm going to help you kind of harp on just a little bit more about it. So, excuse me, in school, they tell you, and I'm sure maybe other places too, but I had to do a lot of complicated math equations for homework, right? Trying to calculate what they call like the time value of money, right? And the idea, or the general summary is, and we'll give it to everybody for free here, is that your money, your cash money today is worth more in most cases, right? All things being equal, in most cases, your cash today is worth more than it is tomorrow. Okay. Now, why is that? If I go to the store and the eggs are $2 today, I got $2 cash to pay them today. If I go to the store tomorrow and the eggs are $4, I'm going to spend $4. and that's my tomorrow money, right? So we want to make sure that we're preserving and protecting is really a better word, protecting our today money. It's not that we're floating things and doing whatever. It's the fact that we've got all these tools in our box and we need to use the appropriate tool for the appropriate payments, right? For the cost that we've incurred. So that's why it's so incredibly important. And to your point, I can't call a supplier after I've already purchased the items and be like, hey, I'm so sorry. Listen, I promise 30 more days. But if you call them before, right, they're much more likely to give you that discount or give you those extra terms or whatever it is that they're going to be doing. But when it comes to the actual crisis time or the critical point, they're not going to feel any kind of compassion or grace or anything like that, right? Because they've got a business to run too, and that's fair. So that's why it's so important to help preserve that cash.
Thanks for that insight. And by the way, comments are open. So if anybody has any comments or questions about anything we've covered so far, please feel free to drop those in the chat.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we keep talking about cash, and this building is small, this building is big. It's a little corny, but thinking about cash as your not just an asset that you have available to you, but as the driver of your business, the lifeblood of your business. So if once you are able to preserve your cash, again, you're able to invest that back in your business. You can be more selective about the types of projects that you take on. You don't need to take on projects with smaller profit margins just to keep your team busy. You can take on additional customers or additional GCs that maybe you haven't worked with in the past. You can sacrifice smaller profit margins on those because it's an investment in your future. And I love this one about access to better talent because across the board, whether it is skilled laborers or I guess I shouldn't say skilled laborers, everybody's a skilled labor, but whether it's people in the field or estimators, these are very difficult roles to hire and very difficult to find quality people in a very competitive space. If you've got more cash to invest in people, you can become more competitive on the hiring market as well.
That's an incredible point because let's just a little pause there is that, you're right. There's such a high need of folks in construction. Every chance that I get, I'm telling people, well, have you tried construction yet? Right. So if you've been out there looking for a job or not been happy or however it goes, have you tried construction yet? Right. And so it's a big deal because we need lots of folks to help us build these buildings and we all need the buildings. Right. And so we've got to find those builders. But to your point, if everybody's looking for the same workers, what's going to set them apart? Right. And the people that are the companies rather that are taking care of their people are the ones that are going to be getting the people to do the work and then winning the jobs and being able to finish the job, right? Because how many times have you heard of somebody taking on a job and then they've got it, and then all of a sudden they don't. And somebody else has got to step in. So that's a big deal too.
Okay, we've touched on this already, so we can go through this fairly quickly, but just another stat. On average, suppliers charge 11% more for subs who pay outside of their terms. The risk costs you money. 81% of subs who have terms have terms that are less than their average DSOs. We talked about that already. But with cash, with additional financing, this gives you the opportunity to have leverage with your suppliers and build stronger relationships there. So, like I was saying earlier, going into a project with a supplier in mind and getting project-based pricing with the understanding that I will have the financing to cover and be able to meet you, pay you upon receipt of materials, pay you earlier. I talked to a supplier I don't want to say the name of it, but a very, very large mechanical supplier nationwide who told me they give a 2% discount just for people paying on 30-day terms. So they want to find ways to get people to pay them sooner. But the biggest issue, I'm sure everybody on this call would know, I mean, if I had the cash, if I had the financial fluidity to pay my suppliers earlier, I would. I don't want to string along suppliers. I don't want to stretch anybody out. And by having the tools to not have to stretch out your suppliers, you will save money in the process. Yes. So we don't need to dwell on that. We've touched on a good amount. But I will say this down here. I'm actually surprised to see this number. It says, according to suppliers, 15% of subs don't negotiate at all. I actually think that number is a little bit higher.
I think it is too.
Yeah.
I think it is.
So,
so no, sorry. I thought you were going to go, you had something else, but I just,
go for it.
If you're not, like I've said it on more than this session, but if you are not trying to negotiate with your suppliers, you're missing out. Okay. I cannot stress that enough. You're missing out on dollar bills, y'all. So make sure you're calling them, right? And saying, hey, what can you do for me? I've been with you for 5 years, or, hey, I just brought you a $500,000 invoice that I paid off real good. What can we now do? Let's start our relationship off, right? And then even then, after you do have that relationship started, call them again the next time you get a big old job, or like we said, one of those tight jobs, and say, hey, we've really enjoyed our relationship. We got a good thing going on, but I'm kind of, I don't know what to do about this project. Here's the deal. Can you help me? Or what can you do for me?
That's right. What suppliers want is they want people who have who can sustain a large line of credit and who can pay them early and on time. And it takes financing to do that in many cases.
That's right. And most of the time we're used to those 10-day terms, but I just heard Benji say 30 days. If a supplier gave me 30 days and I still got a discount, I would be doing everything that I could to preserve that relationship, make sure they get paid so that I could get that same deal on the next job.
Exactly right. Okay. Cost. There is a cost to all sources of capital on a project. Consider this like all other business costs. And this is where I want to talk about the concept of accounting for those costs of capital, your blended total cost of capital, whether it's your cash, whether it's your line of credit, whether it's an outside financing source like Billd, whether it's your credit card costs. These are all costs that the subcontractor is sustaining to keep a project going. So just like your cleanup, just like your fuel costs, just like your overhead, just like your labor, all these things are costs that are incurred in order to support the project. If you need to finance a project, which everybody does, whether they're using cash or whether they're using financing, there's a cost associated with that. And so that should be associated in your overall project cost, your overall budget, your overall bid, your overall internal measurement of your profit margins. A lot of times when we say, hey, we baked it, we assumed a certain number of profit, a certain percentage of profit on this project, and yet it came in a little bit smaller. A big source of that is the cost of financing, the cost of using your cash, the cost of needing to use your credit card, needing to use a source like Billd. And if you go into a project already assuming and understanding those costs and accounting for them in your initial bid, then you'll come out stronger on the other side. So the things to consider when accounting for your cost of capital would be assumed days sales outstanding. So depending on the contractor, customer, or owner or type of project it is, should we expect to get paid in 30 days? Should we expect to get paid in 60 days? Should we expect to get paid in 90 days? And what am I going to need to incur in order to support that DSO number? How do your options mitigate risk? What are the financing costs? And most importantly, there at the bottom, cash isn't free. Now, if you are going to just use cash on a project, you should still assume a certain cost to that. Arriving at a number is going to be, maybe a little bit of art, a little bit of science as to what that number should be when accounting for the cost of using your cash on a project. The truth is, if you have to pull out of your cash, just like everything we've been talking about, there's a cost that comes to that is real and hard in the short term, and real in long term of opportunity cost. So assuming that in your initial bid should be something you lead with. And it's a way to protect you and protect your profit margins on a job to make sure that those aren't getting eaten into by financing through the course of it.
Mm-hmm. Very fair.
So a couple of quick stats on that. Number one, subs who include cost of capital saw 41% higher profitability, and that's a very high number. What goes into that is any financing, not just the financing that we already assumed going into the project, but we were able to take on more projects and have a higher profit margin assumed in our initial bid because we're removing the cost of using our capital from the post-bid process. 40% of subs keep over half their profit tied up as working capital. We talked about that already, but if you're using financing and if you are assuming and accounting for that cost of that capital with your bid, then you're getting to keep that profit in your bank account and invest in your business rather than using that cash as working capital. And this last point I want to touch on, because this may be a little controversial sometimes when I talk to subs, but it does strengthen your GC relationships and partnerships when you account for the cost of capital. And I have a good example of this. So I had a contractor in Georgia who started doing a lot of residential work, and they pivoted to commercial, and they're fairly small and they were growing. And at the beginning, they found that they weren't winning a lot of bids, even if they were coming in. Yes, happy birthday, Maria, once again.
Thank
Great,
you, Bonnie.
great way to earn some swag. Anyway, they found that they were being declined on some bids, even if they were the low bid from GCs, because they said, hey, we don't even know if you're going to be able to financially support this project. And then they pivoted. When they started working with Billd, they started going into their bids saying, here's our cost, here's all of our, here's our labor, here's our materials, and here's our financing cost. We are using a financing partner called Billd, who is going to make sure that we are paid when we get paid, when we need to, and that our materials are covered. And we are never going to be banging on your door asking to get paid sooner, because we're covered. Our financing is in a good shape. They started winning more bids that way. So leading with a place of strength and leading with saying, hey, we've already figured this out. We're in good shape on the financing side, gives GCs confidence that of the 30, 40 subs they're working on a given project, they're not going to have to worry about you in terms of cash flow.
Yeah, and that's amazing, just to have that ability. Like you said, it gives that confidence, an extra layer of just security as far as you being chosen as the trade partner or the company that's going to help them, that general contractor, fill the skill gap that they have, right?
That's right.
And so being able to do that is incredibly powerful.
That's right. Okay. So now we've covered a lot so far today. Now I'll pivot a little bit back to what Billd does specifically. So here's what Billd brings to the table. As I think I mentioned earlier, we only work with subcontractors. We are strict as a financing partner. We strictly work in the construction space. So what that gives you a few key pillars. So number one, I've said it a million times till I'm blue in the face, unlock the power of your cash. If nothing else, what Billd is here to do is to protect your cash, protect your cash, protect your cash. And then we will serve as strategic partners to help you leverage that cash in a meaningful way to grow your business. This is something you can do when you're starting out. You're a $2 to $4 million contractor, all the way up to 50, 60, 75, $100 million contractor. There's always going to be that same cash flow gap between your DSOs and what you owe on your supplier side. So leveraging Billd's financing helps you scale at every different stage of your business growth. I talked to a lot of contractors who are 10 million, but they're still running their business the way they were when they were a $2 million contractor. And that's just not going to cut it, right?
It will for a little bit. Yeah.
It will for a little bit, and then it starts to get pretty stressful.
Yes,
so as you take on more projects, as you take on bigger projects, having a financing partner helps keep that steady rather than following that kind of roller coaster of cash that we see on projects where we start up here and those first couple months we're a little cash flow negative, and then finally we get back up here after that third pay app. Billd helps you stay steady across the project. And the last piece, partnering with construction advocates. So we really internally focus on being the champion of the subcontractor. That is our mission is to help subcontractors and the construction industry as a whole focus on doing the best work of their lives and removing the stress, removing the concern of how am I going to pay my labor? How am I going to take on this additional project that I know we'd be good for, and lean into your strengths as a construction company without needing to constantly dip into that cash. So we take a very strategic partnership with our subcontractors. We have monthly strategic meetings with me, with my partners over on our relationship management team. Our company was founded by people from the construction industry who were subcontractors themselves. So we bring this kind of broad bird's eye view of the industry to our relationships with our subs. Mm-hmm. What do we do? I've covered this at a very high level, but we provide financing in two really key ways. So number one is material financing. Situation, you've got a $200,000 invoice from your supplier. You're supposed to pay that within 30 days, but you know you're not going to get paid but for another 56, 60 days from your sub, from your GC. So your two options are to try to stretch out your supplier, which is going to really hurt your long-term relationship with them, or dip into your cash to pay for those. So instead, bring that invoice directly to Billd. We will pay your supplier directly for the full amount of that material of that material. And then you're on 120-day terms with us. So it just gives you a lot more flexibility. It gets you fast funding. It helps you it helps you pay your suppliers on time. And it's what gives you that power to confidently go in and negotiate better terms with the suppliers by saying, I will have the tooling in place to pay you when you need to get paid. What's the best possible partnership that we can build off of that?
Yeah. And I love the way that you put that. And that's exactly how I would do it, right? Because like we just said, the majority of not everybody is going to talk to these suppliers that way. They're not going to talk to them at all, really. They're going to send somebody down to pick up the part or place the order, whatever it is. And that's going to be the end of that. They're going to pay their bill. But these people have phones, right? They're just like you and me, probably screening them. We may have to leave a message, call them back when they're back from lunch or whatever the deal is. But they're, like we said, if they're not selling material, they're not going to make money. So it's in their best interest to figure out how they can accept your money, and what you can do that. So I love that 120 days. That's plenty of time to get that money back for material, right?
That's right. And we, most people don't go all the way out in that 120-day term. Usually we'll get, you pay us back when you get paid on your pay app, and that usually should be 30, 45, 60 days maybe, but the flexibility is there as needed.
Yeah.
The other side of it, the other product that we offer is very similar, but it's just kind of on the AR side rather than the AP side. That's our Pay App Advance tool. Kind of like we were talking about earlier, throughout the month, you've been incurring expenses with labor, with materials, with overhead. 25th of the month, you submit your pay app, it gets approved 7 days later, you're not going to get paid back for another 56 days. Meanwhile, you've got to continue paying your labor, and we want to take on an additional project, but all of our cash is sunk into this project while we're waiting to get paid back. So instead, you can bring that pay app to us once it's approved. We can verify approval of that the pay app has been approved quite easily. And then we can fund you the money immediately. Then you're on a 60-day term with us to pay that back. Essentially, we'll pay you for the pay app. Once you get paid back by your GC, you pay us back as well. So that gets you, whereas the material financing is a strategic tool to help you with your supplier relationships and also to get cash to you sooner. The pay app advance is just to give you cash that you've already earned so that you can keep these projects on schedule and take on additional projects as well. Mm-hmm. So those are the two ways that Billd can provide financing specific to the construction workflow. Again, to protect your cash and to give you more working capital.
I love that. And to keep your folks paid, right? Because we were joking earlier about, a company not having enough money, but when it comes down to paying the workers, this is work that, like you just said, they've already earned it. So we need to pay them. And if you pay them, then they're more likely to come back and do another job for you. So that's the idea here, right? And then, like we said, it's such a volatile time anyway, especially in the materials market, that being able to have this money on hand is becoming critical for a lot of companies, right? So the folks that have maybe been in business, I don't even care, maybe you just started, or maybe it's been 10 years, you're still subject to market changes, right?
That's right.
And so these kind of things, one bad job is really all that it takes to financially drown somebody. And of course you can, dissolve that company, file bankruptcy and start all over again, but you could also not, right?
I would recommend not. Yeah, that's typically, I'm not a CPA, but I would recommend not doing that.
Right.
To
some people's dismay, I am not a CPA either, but I have to say, I'd rather not go out of business, right?
Yes. So just another quick thing, this just kind of puts in context what Billd does relative to some other existing financing solutions that we talked about earlier. Again, it's just custom built. So we want Billd to not, you don't want to think about Billd as replacing any of these tools on the left side of the screen here. All of the contractors that we work with are using some combination of all of these different working capital tools. But when it comes to your AR and your AP, where we slide thinking about your project-based financing, Billd works because we help you with your cash flow. We can fund quickly. Our terms are tied directly to the payment cycles on the supplier side and on the GC side. Our underwriting, we underwrite every individual project in addition to every individual company that we work with. And so we can give you a credit limit specific to your project so that the financing is ready for the amount that you need on a given project. And in terms of speed, yeah, we can usually, I think our record, I think, was getting financing out like 45 minutes after the initial request, but we turn this around pretty quickly. So rather than getting a small business loan or working with the bank, this can be tapped into and turned around quite quickly.
Yeah, I think I heard you say the word immediately earlier, and I was like, man, 30 minutes is pretty immediate, right? When we're talking about banks or credit cards, there's days, maybe a week wait. But to be able to just put in the information and then have a decision is very powerful.
That is right. So I'll pause for questions now at this point. Anybody have any questions, comments, thoughts on anything we've discussed today, whether it's Billd specific or this idea of managing working capital, protecting cash, anything?
We'll see if I can get us back on here too. So there we are. We're still here. I don't know. I feel like I usually do these at 10 or 11 maybe, and it looks like we picked lunchtime. Here we go. How much does this cost? That's an incredible question and very true, right?
I figured that would be a question that we get here. So the quick answer is that it depends on the contractor. So we underwrite every individual contractor, which I'll talk about in a moment. But basically, we'll take a look at your years in business, your verified annual revenue. We'll look at the credit history of the company itself, the credit history of the owner, and we'll come up with a specific rate for that contractor. So a couple things I will say just broadly about every contract that we have come through. We never want to price anything that is going to be higher than the return on investment that you're getting through using Billd. Our goal here is not to make money off your back. Our goal is to help you grow as a business, and everybody wins in that situation. The other thing I'll say is back to the terms that we offer, 120 days versus 60 days. Billd is priced based on just the total number of days that the financing is outstanding on a prorated basis. So nice. If your rate was, let's call it like a 3.29% monthly rate, that would be then prorated for the number of days that the financing is outstanding. And so we'll work with you to make sure that this is always going to be a financing that makes sense for you, that is like the right financial decision. We will tell people no sometimes if it's gonna cost too much, right? For a given project. If it's going to be a large payout that's going to stretch all the way up to 60 days and you're not going to be able to cover that, we will advise against that in many circumstances. Instead, what we want to do is say, hey, you got your pay app approved today. You're going to get paid back probably in 40 days. When do you need that cash? Let's actually pull the trigger on this on day 20 so that the financing is only outstanding for 20 days or so. So we want to be strategic partners there. So while it may sound like I'm dodging the question of cost specifics, that's individual per contractor that we arrive at. But just please know, we very much take a partnership approach to our subs and making sure that this is always a cost that they can incur in a way that makes sense for the project. And not to beat it a horse, but over time, we really want to work with our contractors on accounting for the cost of your blended overall capital, and that includes Billd. So another way to think about this is if you are going to use Billd over the course of a project, often that will come in somewhere in the 1% to 2% of the overall cost of the project. Most of the time when I talk to contractors and say, hey, if you were to include the cost of Billd in your project and have that and increase your bid by 1% to 2%, would you still win the bid? And the answer is pretty much always yes, depending on the competitiveness of the space. And if that's the case, the cost of Billd is already included. So ultimately, none of it will come out of your pocket. It would be included in the cost of the job.
Yeah, very, very expertly put. And I love that you're able to do this sort of thing, right? And the fact that everything is so individualized, right? So if you go to a bank for a loan, they're not going to be looking out for you and saying, hey, buddy, listen, you really don't need this actual cash money until 10 more days. Do you want to wait 10 days so that you have less interest? You would never hear that from a bank.
Yeah.
And so that's really awesome too. And then the fact that they can just have that decision so instant, right? And to be able to know to go on to the next option or not.
Right. Any other questions?
Very good. I don't, as an ex-accountant, I feel like I am not sure I can leave that one alone. So I may not be an ex-CPA, but I am an ex-accountant. So if I were listening to all of this, I'd be, oh, wow, this is so great. And I was like, ooh, and you start to get feelings when somebody won't name a price. But we know why we can't name a price. It's individual.
Yep.
So here's the next best thing, Benji. Can you give me a range
Sure.
of things that you've seen, like your lowest and your highest?
Yeah, so our lowest rate that we typically would offer would be about 2.99% monthly, and then the highest rate that we would see probably about 3.99% monthly. But again, it is we can go on either side of that, but that's the typical range that we see.
Okay, and that's not too bad. 3.99 for getting to keep your business and have the doors open and your people paid, and they can go Christmas shopping or holiday festive times for them. And so I love this one. This is LaQuinea, and she's joining us. It looks from YouTube. She says, for sure, you had me in the first half, but when you said it's a relationship building exercise, and that's really what we've been talking about, right? Is relationships.
That's right. I don't know if I'm still sharing my screen, but if anybody's interested, are we back there? Okay, cool.
There we go.
So if anybody's interested in furthering the conversation, typically what we would want to do is just have a one-on-one conversation just to talk about your business and whether it makes sense for us to partner and the use case specifically. To get approved, it's a very simple application process that we can send out, and really what you need is verification of the last 6 months of bank statements, ownership to submit a consent to credit. It's a soft credit pull. It's just looking at credit history. And then we like to take a look at AR, AP, and WIP reports. That's not for getting approved, but that's for us to come in, take a look at what's currently on the docket and say, hey, here's where we could plug in and really help. There's a lot of outstanding over here. This project is X% of the way through, and we're going to need a little bit of financing to finish up the job here. That gives us a little bit of a viewpoint to know where we can plug in, rather than having you guys just say, like, I have this invoice, pay it for me. Like, we want to have a little bit more of an opinion there. If you're interested, we'll send this out, but my email address is benji@billd.com, benji@billd.com. There's a link in here for booking a strategy session. But if you just email, we can set something up. One thing I just want to plug, and I don't want to be like overly salesy here, but I do want to say it is the holiday season. We have a promotion going this month through the 21st of the month. From now to the 21st of the month, your first financing with Billd comes with 2 weeks of interest free. So it's a great way to get started and get a feel for how things work, how we work as partners, and get the ball rolling. So if anybody's interested, now would be the time. And just shoot me a quick email. We'll get started.
I love that one. And then, so let's say this is something I didn't think of, because in my head, during our talk and everything, the money's covered and secured by our contract, right? So in my head, I'm not thinking anything about it. But what would happen, right? Because let's just say, we've been talking a lot about trade partners defaulting, but what happens if the owner defaults, right? Of the whole project, or even the GC, and then all of a sudden I'm not going to get paid. What kind of things happen over here with Billd?
We are protected by the mechanics lien, because when we take on the invoice, we essentially become the de facto supplier on the job. And so, see this note about late fees. It is very rare that we would get to a point where our late fees are incurred, because our terms are so long. But usually that would happen because of very late payments from an owner, or late payments from a GC. And in that case, we have lien rights on the job. And so. We don't want to, but we are able to lien a project in order to, if an owner defaults, an owner defaults. But if the payments are so late, that would not be a cost that our subcontractor would incur. We would be protected by the lien. Now, we're not going to lien a project without consulting you, the subcontractor, first. The last thing we want to do is harm a relationship with the GC. So we want to get way ahead of that. But that is how we protect our financing.
Okay. So not really necessarily repercussions for the person who asked to borrow the funds, but the person who's not paying the funds.
Correct.
Okay. I kind of like how that works. I spent a little time with lien waivers as well as at that supplier, and I'll have to tell you, it's one of my least favorite things about life, because you have to be so absolutely sure before you sign them and release them, like as the supplying company, because it's a big deal. And if somebody didn't get paid and you signed that form,
Yep.
right? I'd
And
be like,
we have a whole lien department, by the way, a separate sub company that manages liens. So that's just an additional service that we offer, even outside of Billd,
nice.
like for helping you manage your own lien services.
Okay, that's pretty good. And for folks that were, I know it's really hard, but that was lean, Lien,
Yes.
and not Lean.
Yes.
I like both of them, one more than the other. I'll let you guys guess for that. Okay, well, do we have any more questions or comments? It feels like since we just had 2, I'm not sure that I'm going to do the draw, even though it would be super fun. I think we should just give them swag, don't you?
Sounds great.
Yeah, because it was going to be super fun. It's a cute little thing that does it, but we've got 2 winners. Yay!
I think I can say that our happy birthday Maria can receive a ConTech Financials, and then L Johnson 1467 we'll get a we'll get a Yeti cooler or Yeti mug headed your way.
There he goes. Perfect. See, I don't even know if I spelled it right when I was saying it out loud, but this is what we were talking about, right? So we were talking about lien waivers, and not to be confused or get excited for lien construction, which is also pretty rad. So very good. Well, we'll circle up with you guys afterwards. We'll definitely drop the contact information for Benji and everything in the comments. So it'll be there, and you can always reach out to us here at ConTech Financials. We can help you, definitely evaluate for needs like this. We're saying like, what kind of things do we need in our tech stack anyway? What things need to be integrated or not? Because this is going to, I'm sure, have its own magnificent dashboard of its own and a login and different things like that. So we're very good it looks like we've got some excitement. I love that. Happy to help you shop for the right platform for you, or if you happen to pick Procore, something like that, then we've definitely got our experts on hand to be able to help you implement that in the best way that it is for you, right? So no cookie cutter stuff. All right.
Appreciate everybody's time today. Thank you so much. And thank you, Maria, for putting this on.
Yeah, thank you for coming. It was a good time. And y'all have a good one. Thank you, everybody, to the comments as well.